Welcome to this information session, dear brothers and sisters, and all who are connected with us. I bid you all a hearty welcome, and I would like to share some information with you. At the end and towards the end of this session, there is something very interesting which will be shared with you, but you have to wait for that. On Sunday, the 28th of February, we entered and went into lockdown level 1 after the President's announcement. This allows now a maximum of 100 members and people to attend our services and other gatherings that we have in our churches. Of course, the necessary protocols must be adhered to. And at this point, I want to say and assure you all that our brethren, the COVID coordinators, they're doing an extremely good work in the congregations. So when we do go to a gathering, be it a divine service or any other gathering in our church, go with the full confidence that our brethren take good care, they adhere to all the protocols, and they ensure that all who attend are safe. So once more, to all our coordinators, the COVID coordinators and the COVID committee, thank you very much for the good work that you are doing. While we are able to attend divine services, I have a little bit of a concern that where we have 100 or whatever the maximum capacity of the congregation may be, remember we have a 50% limit, that let us go for the maximum. I've been to a few congregations, and where we could have 50, I see only 30. And if it's only 30, that's okay. But there's another 20 that could have come. And here and there we have 200 members who would love to come. So if you do give a commitment to come, please do come. And if you cannot, let your priest and your rector know so that they can invite someone else. For it is a blessing that we can be together and also celebrate Holy Communion. So, dear brothers and sisters, thank you for adhering and doing what you need to do. But where we are able to attend service, I strongly encourage you to do so. Soul care visits in this time is not recommended, but I do want to say, especially in special circumstances where Holy Communion needs to be served to one that is bedridden, please, dear brothers, I ask you kindly, please try and accommodate our members, especially those who cannot come to church, and allow that they too are able to celebrate the sacrament. But to the members, dear brothers and sisters, I say, please request this. This will not be automatic. Speak to your priests, speak to your rector, and where it is possible, they'll make a plan for you. And we also don't expect to be served every week, but maybe once a month or whatever is possible in the local congregations. Please, brothers, do whatever you can do. And I remind you that if the priest comes to serve Holy Communion, ensure that all the protocols are followed and fellowship is out of the question. At this time, it's not rude not to make the priest a cup of tea or give him a cool drink or a biscuit. Please let him come, do what he must do, and as soon as possible, that he can also leave and be safe and keep you safe. We are thankful that since February 2021, we could start with all holy acts, blessings, ordinations, appointments, retirements, and it's taking place, and I'm happy that these acts, some have waited for a year to have their babies baptized and sealed, or the brothers to be ordained. And this is the life of our church. And I'm thankful, and I thank you, dear brothers and sisters, for your understanding in this matter. as much as we are limited, we cannot invite all our family members to come, but it's important that these acts take place, and our apostles and brethren are extremely busy in this time. Speaking about Holy Acts, I trust that you all had a most blessed departed day. In fact, the departed day where I was in Nyanga was the first time in a year that we could administer the acts to our loved ones in yonder world and all those who have come. And we never forget them. We are and we remain one congregation, and we are thankful for the activity that could take place. I thank you for your prayers, for your love, and doing whatever we can for our neighbor, whether we see him or not. Let's be mindful that we are not alone, and together we are one congregation waiting for the fulfillment of the promise that our Lord God has given us. In recent months, we were now exposed to various services. It was on Facebook, on all the platforms available, and we were thankful for that. But there was a little bit of an unintended consequence to these divine services. As was highlighted to us by some members, here and there we don't get the liturgy right. The liturgy is important. It unites our church and it didn't come about lightly. And maybe before I speak further about this, let us hear what our Chief Apostle has to say regarding the liturgy in use in our divine services.
Liebe Geschwister, ich bin dem lieben Gott besonders dankbar, dass wir diesen Gottesdienst heute hier in dieser schönen Kirche erleben dürfen, mit der fast normalen Liturgie. Und ich muss sagen, also mir tut das unheimlich gut, einen normalen Gottesdienst erleben zu dürfen. Ich habe mich in diesen Tagen damit beschäftigt, wir hatten auch eine Diskussion darüber, und da habe ich gemerkt und wurde mir bewusst, wie wichtig eigentlich unsere Liturgie für uns ist. Man meint ja so oft, ja, die Liturgie wurde von irgendeiner Kirchenleitung vorgeschrieben, damit Ordnung ist und das überall gleich ist. Und manchmal gibt es auch Versuche, man müsse das anpassen, modernisieren und. Aber das ist jetzt das Thema nicht. Aber der eigentliche Sinn der Liturgie ist ja was ganz anderes. Es ist bewusst so, dass wir immer die gleichen wiederkehrenden Bestandteile des Gottesdienstes erleben, weil das ein Zeichen ist für die Gemeinde. Es ist ein Zeichen für den Gläubigen, für die Verlässlichkeit Gottes. Die Liturgie, weil sie immer das Gleiche ist das ein Zeichen, siehst du, egal was passiert in deinem Leben, egal was passiert auf der Erde, ich bin der Herr und ich wandle mich nicht. Ich bin da. Und unsere Liturgie soll ein Zeichen sein, und so empfinden wir das auch, wenn wir nach einer Weile wieder in den Gottesdienst kommen können. Gott ist zuverlässig, er ist treu, er wandelt sich nicht und er ist jetzt anwesend. Und möge uns gegönnt sein heute Morgen, dass wir alle wieder diese Erfahrung machen, der liebe Gott ist da.
I trust the reminder from our Chief Apostle was good for all of us. And we all have to ensure that we do what is right, because the liturgy in our church is not an option. It is mandatory. So towards this end, I want to appeal to all ministers that at least till the end of April, let us, I will certainly do that, and I've asked the apostles and bishops to do that, and all servants, all officiants, please read the liturgy. Please ensure that we get this right. One aspect of it that why I'm saying read it, because you could be doing the wrong thing and it's so ingrained that it's just difficult to get out and you think you're doing it right. So till at least the end of April, I appeal to all ministers. Please, when it comes to the liturgy, read it. And I appeal to the assistants in the congregations, the priest who assists the rector, and your fellow servants. Where there is something that is not right, lovingly point this out so that together we can get this right. It will make me extremely happy that we can follow that which our chief apostle requests of us. So let us do our share that we are able to ensure. Because sometimes, and I say to the members, that if the minister gets it wrong, it does not mean your sins are not forgiven. That's not an excuse for us not to get it right. We'll do our best. So I hope that after the end of April, after going through this process of reading the liturgy, that we can discover where we go wrong and have the opportunity to fix it up. And I'm convinced that after this period, we will all experience the unity of doing the liturgy correctly. I want to talk a little bit about Sunday school over the period where we could not gather. A big thank you to our parents, to the teachers who've made lessons available, homeschooling lessons on our website. It's available in all languages. It was a big job, and they did that. So thank you for all those who've used it, and for those who have not, it is still there, we can use it. But I want to remind us all that the limit of 100 people to gather at our churches is not just for divine services. It's also for Sunday school. It's also for other activity that we may have. Of course, singing is not allowed yet, but for all other activity. So dear brothers, dear parents, dear Sunday school teachers, where catch-up needs to happen, use this time to get our children together, because online learning was fine, but many don't have data, many found it difficult, many didn't have the facility, but now we have, and we can gather. So make good use of this time so that we can teach our children, that they can get up to date, and also that the period of COVID may not leave them poorer. Whatever we can do, let us do it. And I thank you in advance for getting our children together and teaching them so that they do not come short in any way whatsoever. I want to just mention something about our connectivity. You know, the most people and members that are connected are on a Sunday morning where we make use of Cape Town TV, and it's really our wish and our endeavor to ensure that all our members are connected. And now, in the coming days, the NAC TV team will be sending out a survey to all members. The aim of the survey is to determine which platforms members are watching the AVT services on NAC TV. How are you watching? We need to know that. We need to have that information so that we can make wise decisions going forward, that we don't want to take shots in the dark, but we want to ensure that our decisions are based on facts. And we need that. And the members who do not have access to the internet can contact their local rector to assist them in completing the survey. But I appeal to all, because the survey is intended to help you. You know, the one who has good internet and the one who is connected to NAC TV, they're okay. But the vast majority of God's people need to be catered for. And we want to do that. But before we make our decisions, we need this information. Dear brothers, dear sisters, make sure that we are able to get the information so that we can plot the way forward. And I want to say to the brothers and dear brothers, as much as we are not encouraging face-to-face soul care visits, but don't lose contact with God's people. And you know, here and there we've become used to sending a message. Speaking to our brothers and our sisters and our family is still much better than sending a message. And I do believe, look, I am technologically challenged, that I accept and that I know. But I think it's just as cost effective to give a call than it is to send a message. Or that's what I've been told. If it's different, then please, you don't take me to task. But I think a WhatsApp call, it's not much more expensive than sending a message. So make that call. Let no one after the pandemic say, you know, I was alone. Nobody contacted me. Nobody asked me. Nobody wanted to find out how I am. So if you get the thought, don't think, they're too busy. What will they think? Make that call so that our brethren can know we are one family, and let us not forget anyone. Before I come to the main part of this session, I want to make an announcement that on the 23rd of March, there will be a meeting for all marriage officers. This meeting will be conducted at 7 p.m. and will take place via the Zoom platform. So all marriage officers, and on Tuesday the 25th of March, there'll be a meeting for all photographers. You will receive this information on the various platforms nearer to the time. And then there is a big day awaiting us on Sunday. Confirmation starts. And here I want to wish all our young people God's blessings on this great and blessed step that you take in your life. Thank you for our parents. Thank you for our teachers for preparing our young people. And I wish you all a most blessed and wonderful time. And may you receive a special blessing that will take you through the rest of your life. And I wish you well on starting this beautiful and blessed journey. To the parents, I say again, I know traditionally confirmation is a great and wonderful celebration, but please, no parties, no gatherings, because not only is it illegal, but it's also not safe. So please, dear brothers and sisters, let's adhere to this. And sometime in the future, we can always have the celebration, but at this point, the blessing is most important. And let's put all our focus on the blessing that our children will receive. So I wish you well. Stay safe. Dear confirmants, God's blessings. We remember you especially. And also with photographs, everything. Protocols must be followed always. Mask must be worn all the time while you're in church and even after church. I know it's awkward. It's not so easy, but it's necessary. So please continue to wear your mask, wash your hands regularly, and keep your social distance. Now, as I promised, the main part of this session is a special launch of a special book. Some time ago, I encouraged our brothers that we have a thirst for knowledge. And knowledge does not fall out of the sky. Knowledge has to be acquired through various ways, and one of the good ways is through reading. Reading that which is good and that which is blessed and that which will help us understand the plan of salvation a little bit better. I'm reminded of the eunuch of Ethiopia who, when asked by Philip, do you know what you're reading? He says, how would I if someone didn't explain it to me? And further to that end, not only did we want to say, let's acquire some knowledge, let's have a thirst for knowledge, but we want to do something about it. And in the next insert, you're going to hear about what our evangelist Markus Cromhout did. In fact, he wrote a book. And here, an introduction to the world of Jesus and the Gospels. I'm not going to say too much, because in an interview with Maxine Greef that this book was already ready last year we were going to launch it, and then COVID came along, changed our plans a little bit. So this interview was done last year with the evangelist Cromhout. In fact, in certain he's known as Evangelist Cromhout, but to others he's known as Dr. Cromhout, because he's an expert on the New Testament, studied for a long time, and he's put together a book. And before I say too much, I hand you over to Maxine Greef and Evangelist Cromhout, where they'll tell us a little bit more about this wonderful new gift that is available to us.
Greetings, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Markus Cromhout. He's the author of a new book called An Introduction to the World of Jesus and the Gospels. Welcome, Markus. The first thing I want to ask you is, what is this book about?
Like the title says, it's an introduction. So it's to introduce the reader to the world of Jesus. Look at the historical context, the cultural context, the social context, and of course the Gospels themselves, because each Gospel, it tells us about two time periods, so to speak. The time of Jesus and his ministry, but also how it was understood by 4 different Christian communities, because those Gospels were written for 4 different Christian communities. And you also learn something about their own context as well. So it's about giving us a background, a historical context to the Gospels.
That's one of the things that I found interesting, is that the fact that you're putting a story within a historical context, instead of it just being a standalone story about Jesus, it's within a political history, within what was happening at the time. And I found that one of the interesting aspects of the book.
Yeah, normally people don't take that into consideration, that the story of Jesus takes place within a political context, within a social, within an economic context. And of course, Matthew's context, of course, is different to Mark's context. So a bit of that flavor, or that community's flavor, comes through in the Gospels. So if you read it with that sensitivity, then you can also pick up many other things, how they actually represent Jesus. So it's not just writing about Jesus innocently or just pure history. It must be applicable and useful for that community for who it was written. So it speaks to them also.
And what inspired you to write about this?
Many times members ask me, what shall I read? What book must I read? And there's so much things out there that people can read. Many good books that are available. Also, some things on the internet also, although lots of stuff on the internet is not so good. But I thought, okay, people ask me, and I'm thinking now, well, let me do something for the church, for our members. It will be a good resource to have, and also just to give a good overview of the scholarship that exists on the Gospels. And also to be quite representative of the scholarship that's out there, because you also get different kinds of scholarship. You know, you get your left-wing scholars, you get your right-wing scholars, and then this tries to be somewhere in the middle to be representative of the kind of scholarship that exists out there. So it's for our members, what shall I read, where should I go? So at least this is something to begin with. If you want to read the Gospels and from a scholarly perspective, hopefully this will be a good resource for our members to begin with.
Well, you've sort of alluded to my next question, because I love the fact that this material is so accessible. You use very easy language to understand, and of course everybody likes a picture in a book, and there's lots of pictures, lots of graphics. Was it your aim to do it like that, so that you've written previous books where you didn't have as much of that kind of thing? Was that the aim, that you would make it accessible for people?
Absolutely. Generally, people don't read too much, or these kind of books maybe they find daunting to read. So from the beginning, the decision was made, we'll put as many pictures as possible, graphics, maps, etc. is to help inspire the reader also to make it easier for them, to facilitate reading, so the interest remains in the book. And that also if they read of something, that sometimes there's a picture to help them envisage it in their mind. So absolutely, there's brimmed full of pictures is to help the reader. And also to make it interesting, because if you actually see something, and it's very different just to reading about it, because actually if you see it, you can put your mind there, and then you can visualize it in the future when you read about it.
And besides your desire to help members, this project has obviously gone a little bit bigger than that. How did that come about? The fact that it went from your desire to give some members something to read to where we have this book at the moment, and it's a resource that can be used by anybody in the church.
When I first had the idea, I went to the District Apostle, and I told him, District Apostle, must I write a book for our members? So he said, yes, go ahead. So I'm very thankful for the support of the District Apostle and all members at the head office who supported me, actually put this thing together. It's a lot of work that goes into something like this. So with the District Apostle's blessing, then we could hit the road running, so to speak, and then came from there.
And who do you see eventually reading this book and using the resources that are in here?
Any person that's interested in the New Testament. Also, anybody who wants to come to the New Testament and read it with sensitivity. To read it, as I also say in the foreword, to read it in an informative and responsible way. I'm also thinking now of what the Chief Apostle said. If you read the Community magazine that was published this year, he also speaks there that we must read the Bible in its context. We must read passages in their context. You just cannot take things out of their context, and then quite often you can give your own meaning to it. And also you don't understand the biblical text necessarily properly. So it's for anybody who wants to read the Bible with sensitivity, and also to learn about the history of Jesus and his context and of the early Christian communities. Also specifically for ministers, if they want to prepare for sermons, this will also give them nice background to do it.
And do you see it as a resource that could be used by Sunday school teachers, confirmation teachers, and sort of younger people also?
Not Sunday school teachers. Okay. I would say maybe confirmation teachers at a stretch. Look, it's written in easy language. It's not difficult language. I wrote it as simple as possible, the language. But I think it's for young people, it will be accessible, but not necessarily for Sunday school.
And we've spoken before about the amount of information. You've alluded to the fact also, we've spoken about the graphics, and you've alluded to the fact that it takes quite a lot to put this kind of information together. How long did it take you to eventually, from the time the idea came to what we have here now?
Look, some of the book is from my previous research, from previous books I did. And then a lot of it is also new research that I had to put together. So from the time when I started doing the new research and building it together, till it is here, about 2 to 3 years.
A real big part of your life then.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot of work putting something like that together.
No, yeah. I can well imagine. What's your favorite part?
My favorite?
Your favorite part of the book?
My favorite part of the book? I don't know, everything. I don't know. There's... Look, maybe, okay, the Gospels, because, I mean, the first few chapters gives you a background, the historical context, etc. And then it focuses on the Gospels themselves, the last 4 chapters, especially it gives you insight into the evangelist, how he approached the book. The evangelist, that's what scholars refer to the author of the Gospel. And his own unique take on Jesus and how he represents Jesus. I mean, like we said earlier, he doesn't come there just innocently. He has a mission. He has a purpose in what and how he's writing about Jesus, for whom he's writing about Jesus, and then it gives you insight into the evangelist, his thinking. What was his aim and how he presents Jesus to his Christian community.
Markus, one of the other things that I also found interesting is the fact that you give us insight also into who those authors were, like you were saying, the evangelists. So who were the people that wrote it? And being somebody who's in journalism, I obviously found a connection with Mark, because you talk about how he sort of writes straight to the point. He's you know, everything with him was, let's get to it. You know, things are happening immediately. Jesus went there. And I found it's different from the Gospels, where, you know, there's sort of more information, but with him it's sort of to the point. Is that information about the authors is also something that I think people will find very interesting.
Yeah, Mark, he's kind of like a on-the-spot reporter. It's as if you are there and you are watching live television, and he's describing to you, now Jesus is walking into the room, and immediately somebody entered and did this and whatever, and it's one after the other thing. It's action-packed reporting. That's his style. It's a very dramatic style for Mark. And he normally spends more time and words dedicated to an episode, and he gives over the little details. And if Matthew and Luke takes that over from him, they make it easier, or they use fewer words to describe that event. So Mark is very dramatic in the way he presents Jesus. So it's like it's as if you are there. It's unfolding in front of your own eyes. So that's one enjoyable aspect of Mark.
I think that's why I probably connect with it, because yeah, he's like a live reporter all the time, which is
no, he takes you from there to there to there. It's
yes.
like, look here, look here, look here, look what's happening now. That's his style. That's the way he writes. Yeah.
I like people's style like that.
All right.
Is there any new information that you found in the research of this book that surprised you? Stuff that you hadn't known before, and with this research you found like, wow, I didn't know that.
What's interesting for me, there are many.
Okay.
One thing is there's always a question mark in terms of who is the author of the Gospel of John, for example. Common church tradition says it's the Apostle John. The scholarship out there is unanimous. It's not the Apostle John. It's maybe a John the Elder.
Okay.
And he was like a venerable old figure that lived in Ephesus in Asia Minor towards the end of the 1st century. And he was like the local leader of the Christian community there in Asia Minor. He grew to an old age, so he was a venerable old figure. People had very deep respect for him. And it could be him. There's no certainty. That's the thing. That's generally with the Gospels. The early church sources say Mark wrote, for example, or Peter's interpreter, maybe wrote the Gospel of Mark. Luke maybe wrote, the physician wrote Luke's Gospel. They might as well, but we can't be 100% certain. John's Gospel, it could be this John the Elder that's mentioned by early church fathers and early church sources. There's also speculation, of course, that the author is Lazarus. I mean, there's some scholars say that, because John's Gospel is based on the eyewitness testimony of the beloved disciple. And who is the beloved disciple? Church tradition has always said it's John, the Apostle John. But scholars today say, no, it's not the Apostle John, it's somebody else. So who is this beloved disciple? So maybe it's Lazarus. Maybe it's based on his eyewitness testimony. And then maybe John the Elder combined his testimony into a book, as we have as the Gospel. Or it could be maybe John the Elder who's the beloved disciple. So there's a few things that's a mystery. So if you can figure out who's the beloved disciple, then you've done very well.
Great. And I mean, this has now taken 2 to 3 years out of your life. Are you planning to do another one? What's your next project?
I'm busy with a few projects that are intermingled. My one big project that's going to keep me busy for a few years to come is to translate the New Testament. So I plan to call it...
Translated into?
English.
Okay.
From the Koine Greek.
Okay.
That's the Greek of the New Testament. It's called the Koine Greek. It's kind of the common language Greek that was spoken at that time. So that will keep me busy for a few years to come. And I plan to call it the Apostolic New Testament. So it's something that, as a church, we can have as our own to read it. And So I'm going to try and be as authentic as possible to the Greek of the New Testament, because here and there translations, they smooth the rough edges out, and so I'm going to be more authentic, here and there. And part and parcel of that also is I want to do a similar book like this, is an introduction to Paul, his life, also the epistles or the letters he wrote. So those are some of the projects I want to do in the future.
Thank you very much, Markus, for giving us these insights into your book. Thank you also that you've written the book so that we can find out more about things that we normally only see in sort of a very small, isolated way, and now you can actually see it more in context.
I hope people enjoy the book. So it's written for them,
sure
for our
they will.
members, yes, that they also learn from it. Yeah.
I'm sure that they will. If you are interested in purchasing the book, it is available online, and I think it's a resource that many families would be interested in, whether you're a minister, whether you're even teaching Sunday school, just to give some background on what was actually happening at that time and the context that the Bible is actually written in. I'm Maxine Kriel. Thank you very much for joining us.
So I'm convinced that we were not disappointed, that we waited, we heard some more about this book, and I can say that I've read it, and it's the kind of book that you don't read once. It's the kind of book that you go back, and it gives new understanding. When you read the Gospels, then you've got context. So I would recommend to all ministers, get a copy of this book, read it. It will open up your mind and your understanding, and it's a start to understanding our faith and the Bible a little bit better. I would recommend it for all. The evangelist says, maybe the Sunday school teachers not, but I say Sunday school teachers for you too. If it's not to impart to your children, it is then to increase your own knowledge. And when you have more knowledge of the Bible and the context in which it was written, you speak about it more easily. So thank you very much. A lot of hard work has went into the writing of this book, and I encourage you all, ministers and members alike, get a copy and let it be part of your reading, and let it be part of what fills your bookshelf, but don't leave it there. A book does not belong on the bookshelf. Read it, and I'm convinced the benefit you certainly will experience. So, dear brothers and sisters, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being part of this session. I wish you well. Again, finally, confirmation. Blessed time to all and to the families. God bless until we are able to speak again.